Hello friends, I am SARITHA, Principal of Space Junior College, Kadri. So this college is situated in Kadri and we have started this college 15 years back to cater the needs of the rural students who are studying in and around Kadri. So this is a very beautiful college and very academically we are getting very good results in this college since 15 years. Today I have selected the lesson In Celebration of Being Alive, which is written by Dr. Christian Barnard. So this lesson is very apt according to the present situation because we are all facing a very serious problem of corona. So here in this lesson he says that we have to celebrate because we are alive today. So the condition is very grave today's situation. So he says that we have to celebrate because we are alive each and every day. So he says something about suffering which we will discuss in this lesson. So about the author, this is written by Christian Barnard. So he was born on 8 November 1922 and he died on September 2nd, 2001. He was a very famous cardiac surgeon of South Africa and he was the first person who performed human to human heart transplantation. Means taking the one human heart and putting that heart into other's human body is called human heart transplantation. Barnard grew up in Beaufort West, Cape Province, Union of South Africa. His father Adam Barnard was a minister. Minister means a pastor in the church, not the minister what you are thinking. It is not something concerned with the government. He was a pastor in the church, in the Dutch Reformed Church. His brother, he was the fifth son, and one of his brothers, Abraham, he died of a heart problem at the early age of 5. So Barnard matriculated from the Beaufort West School in 1940 and he started studying medicine in the University of Cape Town Medical School and he obtained his medical degree MB-CHB in 1945. He has also written many famous books and one of them are One Life in 1969, The Second Life in 1993, The Donor in 1993 and 50 Ways to a Healthy Heart in 2001. So this lesson, In Celebration of Being Alive. So here the author says that we have to celebrate or we have to make as a joy because we are alive today. So our life is very precious according to the author. But here in the current situation, many people are not giving importance to their life. They are suiciding because of small trifle issues. But the author says that we have to be alive and we have to celebrate that we are alive today. So he says, more and more as I near the end of my career as a heart surgeon, my thoughts have turned to the consideration of why people should suffer. So here he says, as I near the end of my career, the author is very old now and he is a very famous heart surgeon. Now he is thinking why people should suffer. He has started thinking and he is very observant and thoughtful that why people should suffer. Because suffering seems so cruelly prevalent in the world today. He feels that suffering is very widespread. Any kind of person is suffering in the world today. Any person or any man is having some kind or the other kind of the problem. So why people should suffer? That is what he is thinking. And he says that, do you know that the 125 million children are born this year? And 12 million are unlikely to reach the age of 1 and another 6 million will die before the age of 5 and the rest of many will end up as mental or physical cripples. He says that every year 125 million children are born, but that number is just not a number. It may increase and now nearly only 12 million of the people or the children are celebrating their first year birthday. and another 6 million will die before the age of 5. And those who have lived, they will become either mental or physical cripple. Mental cripple is a situation where you suffer with many kind of behavioral problems. Just like you feel that your attitude will change, you will become adamant, you will have suicidal tendencies. These are called the mental cripples. You will not grow up enough to think what is good or what is bad. Or sometimes you may have physical cripples, you may suffer from any deformity in your body. So why does he feel like for that suffering? He tells in the next paragraph, my gloomy thoughts probably stem from an accident I had a few years ago. So he is telling that these thoughts which make him very bad, it probably comes or originate from an accident which he had a few years back. What happened on that day? One minute I was crossing the street with my wife after a lovely meal together, and the next minute a car had hit me and knocked me into my wife. He and his wife had a lovely dinner and they were returning from a restaurant, and suddenly a car came and hit Dr. Bernard and he knocked into his wife, and she was thrown into the other lane and struck by a car coming from opposite direction, and she was thrown onto the opposite road or street, and she was also hit by a car which was coming from the opposite direction. During the next few days in the hospital, I experienced not only agony and fear but also anger. He says the next few days he has to be hospitalized along with his wife. So there he experienced not only agony means pain because of the physical damage which has happened to him, and also fear. He was afraid, not only that one, but he was also angry because he says, I could not understand why my wife and I had to suffer. He says that why for their no mistake of both of them they had to suffer. And because of that accident, I had 11 broken ribs and a perforated lung. My wife had a badly fractured shoulder. And he also says because of the accident, all his 11 ribs were broken and he had a damaged lung also, and there was no mistake of his or of him. And his wife had a badly fractured shoulder. His wife had a fractured shoulder. And over I asked myself, why should this happen to us? So he felt that why this is happening to both of us, because he says, I had work to do. After all, there were patients waiting for me to operate on them. He says that because I cannot sleep in the hospital with no work to do. He is a very busy cardiac surgeon and there were patients waiting for him. In those days, there were very less heart surgeons, and many people who are having some heart problems were depending upon the very less availability of the doctors. So he had a lot of work to do, and he says that there were patients waiting for me to operate on them. And my wife had a young baby who needed her care. Recently they had a baby, and his wife should take care of the baby at home, but both of them were hospitalized for their no mistake of them. So he felt, why I have to suffer? That is what he explains in this stanza. When he was suffering, he recollected his father's words, and he says, my father, had he been still alive, would have said, my son, it's God's will. So he thought that if my father would have been alive, his father was already dead, and he felt that if his father was alive, the father would have told him, the accident which happened to you, my son, it's God's will. Will means wish. So God has wished you, or God's desire, that you must have an accident. And why God wished like that? he says that that's the way God tests you. So God is giving a test for you and you should face the test, because he also said suffering ennobles you, makes you a better person. His father would tell that if you suffer, it will ennoble you. Ennoble means to make somebody nobler. Nobler means to have good qualities. Whatever problems you face, you will learn a lesson from that problems. And like that, you will also try to understand the problem which other faces. So it makes you a noble person and also makes you a better person. That is why we say that whatever God's wishes, it will happen like that, and we will come out of that being a better person. But as a doctor, I see nothing noble in a patient thrashing around in a sweat-soaked bed, mind clouded in agony. But still, Bernard did not feel what his father told was correct. He felt that suffering or feeling pain in a hospital is not noble. You will not become noble when you are doing something in the hospital. So he says that I see nothing noble in a patient thrashing around sweat-soaked bed. In the hospital, you will be on the bed and you will be covered with sweat. You cannot get up and you cannot walk. You will be always soaked in sweat, and also you will not have bath. You cannot feel happy. And your mind will be clouded in agony. Your mind is also, your mental condition and also physical condition are in a very bad state. So you will not be happy in a hospital. Nor can I see any nobility in the crying of a lonely child in a ward at night. So he also says that as he is a doctor, cardiac surgeon, he tells that when I see a child crying in a ward at night, a lonely child, a child without any person or parents' help who is crying in the ward at night, I don't see any nobility, I don't see any good in the crying of a child. In this para, we learn what is the reason of Dr. Bernard to become a doctor. Because he says that I had my first introduction to the suffering of the children when I was a little boy. So he shows that when I was a little boy, I came to know about the suffering of the children. How? Because one day his father showed him a half-eaten mouldy biscuit with 2 tiny tooth marks in it. His father showed him one biscuit which had 2 tiny tooth marks in it, and he said that biscuit was eaten by my brother who died several years earlier. So it was the last biscuit my brother had eaten before he died. His father also told me about the suffering of this child who had been born with an abnormal heart if he had been born today. So his father also told about the suffering of this child. The child name was Abraham, and he was one of the brothers of Dr. Christian Bernard. And he told this was the child who had been born with an abnormal heart. Abnormal heart means heart which is not functioning in a normal condition. Heart may be having a hole, or heart may be having a faster rate of heartbeats. These are all the abnormality of the hearts. So his brother died due to this abnormal heart, and there were no heart surgeons at that time. So he died. His father also told if he had born today, probably someone could have corrected that heart problem. He also told that if that child was born today, because of this advanced technology, and that boy might have been alive today, corrected that heart, somebody might have corrected that heart problem, and he might be alive today. His father also told that in those days they did not have sophisticated heart surgery. So his father told when his brother was alive having that abnormal heart problem, they did not have advanced heart surgery. Heart surgery means the operation which is being done by the heart specialist on a baby or on a person. I have always found the suffering of the children particularly heartbreaking, especially because of their total trust in doctors and nurses. So this was the feeling of Dr. Bernard. He says that he always felt that the suffering of children was very sad because those children don't know why they are suffering, what happened to them, what will happen to them, but they have to suffer. And this is because of the extreme trust in the doctors and nurse. So the people or the parents of the child or the child, they will completely trust in doctors and nurses. Whatever they say, they will do. And they believe that you are going to help them. The parents will believe that the doctors are there to help them. If you cannot accept their fate, they go through mutilating surgery and afterwards they don't complain. So if the doctors say that they have to undergo some surgery, they accept to do that mutilating surgery. Mutilating means to cut off a part of your body to make you alive. And if everything goes off well, you are alive. If something happens to you and you say that the patient died because of some circumstances, the children or the parents, they will not say, don't complain anything towards the doctor, and they accept that this is their fate. Fate means destiny. Whatever the God has wished, it has been completed, they say, and they just keep quiet. That is the total trust in doctors and nurses. That is why people say that God, the second God, is the doctors and the nurses. And they also say, there is a Sanskrit shloka, they say that Vaidyo Narayano Harihi. And even today in this present situation, the doctors are called as frontline warriors in the controlling of COVID-19. So that is the importance they are going to give for doctors. So the doctors are just like a second God for us. Here comes the part which made Dr. Bernard think the angle of which he was looking towards suffering was wrong. He says that one morning, several years ago, I witnessed what I call the Grand Prix of Cape Town's Red Cross Children's Hospital. So he says, one morning, before this accident happened to him, he saw one kind of car race. Grand Prix means international motor race or car race. But he is comparing one kind of race which took place in Cape Town's Red Cross Children's Hospital. He was in Red Cross Children's Hospital for treating some patient. There he saw what he is comparing with an international car race in the children's hospital. It opened my eyes to the fact that I was missing something in all my thinking about suffering. Something basic that was full of solace for me. So here, in that hospital, he realized to that fact that he was missing something basic of the suffering. And that when he witnessed that scene, it brought him complete solace. It made him better in the view of suffering. He began to feel why the persons should suffer. Suffering does not make you bad. He began to completely agree with his father that suffering ennobles you, makes you a better person. What was it? We'll see in the next. As it was a children's hospital, the patients were also only children, with the parents not available. So what happened there? What happened there that morning was that a nurse had left a breakfast trolley unattended, and very soon this trolley was commanded by an interpreted crew of two, a driver and a mechanic. So on that day, on that morning, the nurse had brought breakfast for these children, and she had left the trolley for some time and went on some other work. And very soon this trolley was taken in charge by very brave two persons, one acting as a driver and another acting as a mechanic. The mechanic provided motor power by galloping along behind the trolley with his head down. So what was the part of the mechanic? He provided motor power by galloping. He began pushing the trolley along behind the trolley with his head down. With his head down, he started pushing the trolley forward, while the driver, seated on the lower deck, held on with one hand and steered by scraping his foot on the floor. And what is the part of the driver? He has to control the vehicle. He has to take the steering and control the vehicle. So he sat on the lower deck of the trolley, the lower portion of the trolley, and he started steering by scraping his foot on the floor. He also provided motor force by scratching or by moving the trolley with the help of the foot on the floor. The choice of the roles was easy because the mechanic was totally blind and the driver had only one arm. The choice of the roles were very easy because the mechanic was totally blind and the driver had only one arm. So the mechanic need not see the road, and the driver, he is guiding the mechanic to push the trolley, and the driver had only one arm with which he was controlling the trolley. So as the children were playing and enjoying, all the other patients, they were enjoying this race. So what happened? They put on quite a show that day, and judging by the laughter and shouts of encouragement from the rest of the patients, it was a much better entertainment than anything anyone puts on at the India Police 500 car race. So doctor is telling that when you visualize that one, a child pushing the trolley and another child who is having only one arm, he is controlling the trolley, and all the breakfast which was on the trolley, it fell down because it was not a smooth one. He cannot go, he cannot move, and the other person cannot guide him properly. So when everything falls, the children's mentality is when any damage happens, they feel very happy. So all the children found it very happier by the shouts and the laughter, and they were encouraging these two people to make the trolley move from one place to another in a fast manner, and it was much better entertainment than anything anyone else gets. Even when you look at that India Police 500 car race, the entertainment which you get at or the nail biting finish when you see that car race, you will not get that kind of entertainment anywhere. But the doctor is telling that you are getting much better entertainment than that Indianapolis car race. And what happened? So there was a grand funeral of scattered plates and silverware before the nurse and the ward sister caught up with them, scolded them and put them back to bed. So the sister and the ward nurse both came by hearing the sounds and the entertainment and the laughter of these people. They came there and they saw that there was the scattered plates, all the plates and all the breakfast were scattered on the floor, and all the plates, glasses, spoons, everything was down on the floor, and all the children were clapping and happily enjoying and celebrating this race. And the nurse and the ward sister, they came and they scolded them, all the children they scolded and brought back them to their bed, made them and gave them the thrashing and make them to sleep on the bed once again and provided them with another set of breakfast. So what was the story of the mechanic and the driver? The doctors say, let me tell you about these two. The mechanic was all of 7 years old, and one night when his mother and father were drunk, his mother threw a lantern at his father, missed, and the lantern broke over the child's head and shoulders. So he is telling the mechanic was only 7 years old, and what happened, why he had been like that. One night his mother and father were drunk and they both quarreled, and the mother, in angry, she threw a lantern at his father, and the lantern missed his father and broke over his head and shoulders. So what happened? The child suffered severe third-degree burns on the upper part of his body and lost both his eyes. So what happened? The child got severe third-degree burns. The lantern broke over his head and he suffered third-degree burns on his head and shoulders. And he had completely become blind. At the time of the Grand Prix, he was a walking horror with a disfigured face and a long flap of skin hanging from the side of his neck to his body. When this happened, this Grand Prix happened, he was admitted in the hospital for the treatment of the burns, and he was just like a walking horror. Whoever saw this boy, they were he was looking a horror, and he was called as walking horror because his face was disfigured very badly. Disfigured means cannot even identify who is this child, and he had a long flap of skin, a loose skin which is elongated, and it is hanging from one side of the neck to his body. Because of this burn injury, all the skin had become a fibrous tissue and it was hanging loosely from one side of the body from his neck to the body. As the wound healed around his neck, his lower jaw became gripped in a mass of a fibrous tissue. As the wound began to heal, what happened? His lower jaw, it became gripped in a mass fibrous tissue. Fibrous tissue means elongated and twisted, and it will become like threads. The skin was very, very loose, and the only way this little boy could open his mouth was to raise his head. So whenever the boy wanted to open his mouth, he should raise his head. He should bend his head towards upward direction, then only he could open his mouth. Otherwise, he was not able to open his mouth because it was gripped in a mass of fibrous tissue. So after this Grand Prix, the doctor stopped and asked him. He said happily, we won, and he was laughing. But the child was not at all thinking about his condition. He was only happy because he was alive and they were enjoying their life, and they were not feeling pain, they are not feeling suffering, and they did not feel that we were like that. What was happened to him, they did not care. And he said that, doctor, we won the race. We wanted to enjoy, we enjoyed, we both won the race and also made other children very happy. Suddenly, I realized that these two children had given me a profound lesson in getting on with the business of living. The doctor says that suddenly I realized that these two children taught me a very good lesson which was unforgettable in my life. That is, that to get on with the business of living. So the children told that whatever you lost, you need not to worry about them, but you have to continue your living with what you have got. Because The business of living is joy in the real sense of the word and not just something for pleasure, amusement, recreation. Because living is not just for joy or happiness or amusement or recreation. The business of living is not having any real sense. It is not for pleasure. We are not living only for happiness. We will not get only happiness in our life. We will not get only entertainment in our life. We will not get only recreation in a life. Our life is full of ups and downs. It is having both happiness and sad, sorrow, everything. But for a very little trifle things, we should not say that our life is very difficult. I cannot study this. I cannot do this one. I cannot understand this one. I won't learn maths. All these things are being told by you, but this is not thing. You have to accept that everything, whatever is there in your life, it is both bad and good, happiness and sad. So he learned that lesson. The business of living is the celebration of being alive. What is meant by life? The meaning of life is the celebration of being alive. Whatever we are today we are here. You should enjoy the today's. You should not worry about tomorrow. You should not think about our past. You should always think about the present day. What we are today, you have to think about this. We should not worry about what had happened in the past, and we should not worry about the future. You can also see that I have put a slide of Stephen Hawking. So Stephen Hawking was a scientist. He was a great reformer, and whatever he has done to the present day, he is, you please try to collect something about Stephen Hawking, who is a very great motivator to you. I have not told anything about him because it is a work which you have to do. You have to search and read something about Stephen Hawking which will make you to feel great. And he also said that what he has not got, it is not that important. What he has got, it is important. He is a person, he had some strange muscular dystrophy in which he could not move any part of the body except his eyes. So with his eyes, what he has done is a miracle. So please go through him and search about him and learn about him. Then you will surely understand the business of living is the celebration of being alive. So after this, the doctor began thinking, and he is telling that I had been looking at suffering from the wrong end. He says that I have been always looking suffering as a bad thing, or the thing which there is no problem, it is full of problems, and which you feel that why it should come to me. But you don't become a better person because you are suffering, but you become a better person because you have experienced suffering. So he is telling that all persons, when they experience suffering, they will become better persons. How? Because they can understand, they can appreciate the other person's problems. When they suffer, when they only suffer, they can experience the other person's problem. If they don't suffer, they don't know what suffering means. And he also says, we cannot appreciate light if we haven't known the darkness. He gives the examples that if we have not known the darkness, we cannot enjoy day. We cannot enjoy a richness if you cannot know about the poverty. If you don't understand what is meant by poverty, you cannot appreciate the richness which God has given to you. Likewise, nor can we appreciate warmth if we have never suffered cold. He also says that we will never appreciate the warmthness or love and affection which our parents will give if we don't we will not appreciate the love and affection of the parents if we have not confronted a badness or bad feeling from somebody outside the world. So in the society, if somebody treats you very badly, then only you appreciate the warmth in your parents' love. And these children have showed me that it is not what you have lost that is important. What is important is what you have left. So these children have told me a good lesson, that what you have lost is not at all important. What is important is what you have left. With what you can do, that is important. Here he says that until we experience depression or loneliness, we cannot appreciate the happiness. So whenever there is some negative attitude, then only we can accept the positive attitude in a greater manner. And here I have also put one clip about Nick. So Nick is a person who is born with a disability, that he is not having the legs and not having the arms. You also try to learn something about which or how he has been, and he is also one of the latest motivator in the life. What he has done to motivate his life is what you have to learn. And if you read about these two persons, you can appreciate life. And not only these two, there are many kinds of personalities in India. And last year you have read the lesson about Arunima Sinha. Even she is a mountaineer, and she climbed Himalaya with one prosthetic leg. And also Sudha Chandran and many of the people like these two have motivated us. But the thing is, we have to see and we have to take their positive attitude and apply into our life. Then only there is the meaning of being alive. That is how we have to celebrate our lives. We should not take our lives, and we should not take we should not die or suicide for small petty things. We have to learn that the celebration is of being alive. We have to celebrate our lives because we are alive, and we have to make something useful in our life which has to be given to somebody else, or somebody should appreciate us, or somebody should learn or take a motivation from us, and we can help somebody in our life. Thank you.